Okay, so I do a little intro, and then we'll get things going.
Cool.
And it's pronounced platypus.
Yes.
Plaster.
Yes.
Platsor.
Oh, no, because there was somebody who had pretty much my exact last name, but with a Z instead of an S. Do you remember Jared Plaster?
Oh.
Yeah. We would get confused all the time. People thought we were related, and it's like, that's not even the same last name.
I was going to say, I feel like one of you was fucking with me and was like, yeah, that's my cousin.
Probably.
Because I definitely remember I used to make that association all the time. So I'm sure you guys got so sick of it that one of you was like, yeah, that's my cousin.
Yeah, well, we didn't like him at first because he messed up the alphabetic rotation. In high school, we used to like sit, the teachers would like assign you to sit in alphabetical, like A to Z.
Uh-huh.
And so, pre-marriage, Kelsey Perkins, Steph Plaster, Jerry Pikus, Justin Palmer, Bitsy Salisbury, Sam Stosky. We were all...
Oh, wow.
We were all, like, in a row, and then in moves this guy. And we're just like, oh, God, I guess we have to be friends with him. Like, he was just around because of his last name. It's how he fit into our group.
That's so funny. So wait, who was at the top of it?
And Kelsey Seeley. Duh. Yeah, Palmer. Palmer was at the top.
So that would be funny if Justin was in charge of like introducing the new person. All right, guys. This guy is like Finnish, I think. I don't know what anyways, here's Pikus.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, he was already here? Sorry. Platzer. That's what I meant to say. Pikus, I just forget that you're here so often. Okay. Well, I mean, we've done quite a bit of introing, but here's the thing that I want to say. So I have talked about, I consider you part of in my head, like the Trinity. So I've talked about one of the three of you in so many podcasts. There's so many episodes where it's either you and Bitsy and Linda, Linda and you. Like there's some combination of the three of you at some point that I talk about you guys because you were such a good example of being accepting of others. And it's funny, I feel bad, but like I was always a little scared of Linda because her look was always like, I don't know if we want to let you in the club. Like she seemed always a little trepidatious because she was like, we have a fucking good thing going on here. And
yeah, we do.
If we throw in another variable, I might just have to kill you.
I think that a lot of people thought that Linda, because she's always been kind of quiet, that like that means like mean or bitchy.
I thought it was the eyebrows.
Oh, okay.
She had very good like it was like a judgment of character radar.
Mm.
It was in her eyebrows. She would look around and be like, You could just hear that. That guy's going to try to roofie us. We need to get out of here.
Yep. I mean, she is a very good judgment of character.
For sure. That's why I was always scared of her, because I was a piece of shit in high school. So I was like, uh-oh, she knows.
I think that we've all gotten better since high school. There was really only room to go up from there.
That's the hope, right?
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Steph Platzer.
You said Platzer.
Plaster?
Yeah.
Fuck. Damn it. I knew I was going to fuck it up.
All good.
Can we pretend to try again?
Yes. 100%.
Ladies and gentlemen, Steph Platzer. Fuck! Jared, run it back one more time. Ladies and gentlemen, Steph Plaster.
That's me.
Hi, how are you?
I'm wonderful.
I don't know why, but like, I don't do goofy stuff so much on this one, but for you, I was like, I want to kind of fuck around for a little bit at the beginning. So thank you for letting me do that.
You were very welcome.
So like I was saying, like I talked about you guys so much because in our community, like growing up, there was a lot of cliques and there was a lot of like judgment based on looks. But when you guys finally hit high school, there was this like, it was just so nice. There was so much joy in all of you guys.
Yeah.
So I want to cover that. But first let's do the history.
Okay.
So how many siblings do you have?
I have 3.
3. Okay. And where do you land in that?
I am number 2.
So you're the middle?
Yes. So because there is a large age gap for my littlest brother, I definitely grew up with an older sister, a younger brother, and like was firmly in the middle child role. And then 14 years later comes my little brother.
Oh, okay. And did you guys grow up in Becker?
Yep.
Okay. And your mom and dad, were they together whole time?
Still are.
Still are together. Fantastic. It's funny. I have such a hard time remembering your older sister. How much older is she?
Tracy is 4 years older than me.
Okay. So I had to have met her before.
Yeah. It's interesting because I know that you interviewed Tyler McInich, who is my roommate, and we actually have like the same family structure. Other than my little brother. Tracy and Aaron graduated together. Me and Tyler graduated together. And my brother Ty and J-Mac graduated together.
Wait a second.
Yep.
If Tracy and Aaron graduated together, that means I graduated with her.
Shut up!
Yeah.
2004?
I'm the same age as... Well, no, wait. So Aaron is the same age as me.
Okay.
Which would have been 05.
Okay. Maybe they weren't the same age. I always thought that they were.
So I'm glad that we cleared that up.
Okay.
Because
Tracy's a year older than you.
Okay, good. Because I would have felt real bad if we were in the same class and we're like, no fucking idea. Because I made a point. My codependency was so bad in high school that my sophomore year, I did like a poll. I like went around our, graduating class and made sure that everyone liked me. And there was one person that didn't like me.
How much did that drive you crazy?
Oh, dude. I turned it around big time.
Are you guys best friends now?
No, that lady sucks. So it's kind of a pointless endeavor. But I remember because somebody else told me. They were like, Samantha fucking hates you. I was like, what? Like, I get like not enjoying me, but she hates me? Why? And they're like, I don't know. But she told me that. And so I found her and I was like, what's the deal?
Yeah.
And she was like, because everyone likes you. And I was like,
you just go in counterculture?
What? She was like, yeah, you're constantly looking for approval. And I was like, okay, we're about 20 years early on me like confronting that. So why don't you level
I'm going to need you to slow down, Samantha.
And then eventually I turned it around. Like I feel like I made her like muffins or something. Like I really went for it.
You tried.
Yeah. And then she was like, I'm religious and everybody's going to hell. And I was like, well.
Not if I make you muffins.
Yeah, not if I make you muffins. Actually, these are muffins made in satanic pants. So now you're going to hell.
Yeah, Becker was a weird place.
Yeah. So before we get to like how, it accumulated to, because I'm sure I'm not the first person to say like what a joy all y'all was. But growing up, were your parents religious at all?
Yes.
Okay.
Very much so.
Did you guys would they take you to church and all that jazz?
Yeah, we grew up Catholic. My grandma went to mass on Saturday nights. As you can imagine, that was not something we wanted to do. But I went with my grandma a lot. And then it was when I would go with my parents who would go, it's like you either needed to go Sunday morning or Saturday night with grandma, one or the other. And so when I wouldn't go with my grandma, if I was going Sunday morning with my parents, if we were going to be late, we would just turn around and go back home. It was like, you can't show up late.
Oh.
It was like,
well, it's so loud.
Well, I think it was more of a judgment kind of thing. It's like, we'd rather just not go at all than show up late. And so we did that for a very long time, when I was a small child. And then when Sam and Bitsy got into youth group, I started going to youth group and then eventually started going to church at Oakwood when I was probably 14, 15.
Now, when youth group started, if I remember right, it was considered non-denominational.
Yep.
I can't really remember its beginning. It feels like just one day somebody was like, there's this guy named Kevin. He really likes 1,000-foot crutch and
yeah.
wants to, he's like the Pied Piper of Becker. He just takes in all of the children.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was pretty much it. To have a youth pastor be into the same music that I was when I was in middle school, which is the same music that I'm into now. I remember meeting him and talking about Yellow Card, and I was like, this is something I could get used to. And then I started going to church, and then my parents were like, my daughter's spending so much time doing this thing, maybe we should be interested in it too. And then they started going to church, and they actually are still active members of Oakwood.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did your older sister really buy into the Catholic side of things?
No.
Okay. That's what I was curious about, was what if you noticed a difference in the views of religion between the two of you?
Oh, no. So Tracy hated the whole Catholic thing. And she is definitely more religious than I am.
Oh.
But that is because I am not religious at all now. But she definitely and I don't want to say even religious, but probably spiritual.
There we go. Yeah.
Is the better way to describe Tracy's beliefs, whereas I mean, she will still sometimes go to church.
Okay. Did Linda and Bitsy grow up with you as well?
Yep.
Okay. So do you remember when that friendship formed? And
yeah, so I started being friends with Bitsy in the 3rd grade and started being friends with Linda in, this is so weird, in 6th grade. Linda is partly deaf.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And in school, she had this little speaker box thing that sat on her desk. And that our teachers needed to wear a little clippy microphone.
Wow.
So that she could hear into this little microphone box type thing. And I distinctly remember when 9/11 happened, because all of the teachers got pulled into the hallway, but our teacher was still wearing the thing.
No shit.
Yeah, so all of us were crowded around Linda's desk trying to figure out what was going on, because we could hear the conversation through this box.
That is wild.
Yeah.
Wow, what a crazy experience.
It was. I think that everyone remembers where they were when 9/11 happened, but like I remember it in such detail because by the time that he came back in, we were like, yeah, we already know.
That's such a unique experience too.
Yeah.
I remember I was in the library when I heard the first hint of it because our normal like homeroom teacher wasn't there. So they just had us go in, and not the main library, that weird one that was like in a dark corner. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That one was weird as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
So we were in there, and I remember hearing one of the teachers say, I wonder if they'll go for the Sears Tower next. And I didn't understand what that meant until later.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay.
Yep.
That makes sense now.
That was like one of my first memories with Linda. And
Really?
like what a fucking groundbreaking like experience to share.
A ground zero relationship.
Yes, if you will.
Wow, that's wild. I had no idea. So when she must have not had to use that eventually.
Yeah, I mean she has a hearing aid.
Like a cochlear implant or just the
I think it's just one that you can take in and out.
Mm, wow.
But I remember like when Bitsy and Linda were living together and Bitsy would be upstairs and she would like yell at Linda to like bring something upstairs. And she would get so frustrated because Linda wouldn't hear her. And she's just like, or she pretends like she doesn't. And I never knew like who to side with.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you guys start going to youth group and it was so intoxicating.
Yeah.
Like now looking back, like it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was cult-like, but we were so impressionable because there was so much divide that it really gave a lot of like outsiders and misfits this chance at like what felt like a really like strong bond in a community.
Yeah, totally. That is exactly how I would explain it. And also as I started attending more, I would tell people about it and then they would come. And then it was also just like a place where I got to hang out with my friends and build community.
Yeah, which was wild. So, I mean, at what point, because one thing that I remember that drove me away from there was I had a lesbian friend who went there. Do you remember Jazz?
Yeah.
Okay. So for some reason, Kevin decided to go hard in the paint about the, homosexuality. And I remember he was there, right? And, well, I mean, at the time, she.
Right.
But I remember, like, looking over at her while he was doing this and just being like, he knows.
Yeah.
He knows full well that she's not straight. And it just completely rubbed me the wrong way. And I was like, that was like the start of me kind of walking away from that. But my relationship with Kevin, like, maintained over the years. So I'm curious as to like because at what age did you start to notice, like, and I'm always curious with people who are bisexual because it doesn't always start as like what is considered attraction. It's just these really strong relationships.
Yeah.
So I'm curious as to what like your experience was.
I was still very deep in the closet at this point, and like looking back, there's all of these like, oh God, Steph, how did you not know this? Like picture of like Amy Lee from Evanescence, like hanging on my ceiling so I could look at her before I went to bed. Yeah, totally normal straight girl thing, right? You know,
we were
like
just looking at pictures of her last night. That's so crazy. That is wild. Kim is having me Photoshop an elder emo like poster.
I love that.
Where I'm Photoshopping different emo characters onto a Lord of the Rings poster. And Amy Lee is one of them.
Of course she is. Fucking of course she is. So yeah, I mean, it was very much not that I am attracted to this person. It's that I want to be like this person. And because I'm like, oh my gosh, she's so pretty. I want to be like her. Instead of she's so pretty, I want to date her.
I got you. Yeah.
So, when there were messages like that, I remember it bothering me, but not really.
You talking about when Kevin would do that shit?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it wasn't like a common normal thing, like that. Because if it was like every time, I would be like, okay, now I'm no.
Yeah.
But like whenever something like that would come up, it would bother me, but I wouldn't be able to say why, because like I didn't have any friends who were out at the time. You know, so I couldn't be like, well, it bothers me because my friend's gay, my friend's bisexual, my friend's trans, you know, like I didn't have that thing that I could point to.
Right.
But like it still just bothered me.
I think I don't think I was the only one that like kind of started to distance after that stuff started to happen. I think part of it, I mean, there were definitely people, like you said, like we were people that were too young to recognize that they had any same-sex like feelings. And it was just in your subconscious, like your body knows, yeah, we want to fuck like everybody. So, but back then, like we just didn't have the capacity to recognize that.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I had a gay experience, and I always latched onto this thing, and the reason why I know that feeling of you don't necessarily recognize it as attraction. It's just this like you have this really deep sense of like wanting to be around an individual and you like latch onto them. When I would have been 11 or 12 and in Oregon, and when we would go on like camping trips as Boy Scouts, it was up in the mountains. It was fucking incredible.
It sounds dope.
Yes. I mean, the forests in Oregon. Have you been to Oregon?
No.
Dude.
One of the only places I haven't been.
I feel like Oregon is like in your blood. Like yes. Anyways. So we had to like get badges, right? That's the like staple of being a fucking Boy Scout. And there was this kid that had like androgynous features. And I just had this like really intense feeling of like, I want to be alone with this person. Mm-hmm. Like I want one-on-one time. And because I remember people, like other kids being like, oh, we'll come. And I'm like, it's only room in the canoe for two of us. So fuck off. So I like rode this kid around this lake and just the whole time being like, why the fuck do I want to be around you so bad? So that was like my first thing. Right. And then some shit happened later on where I recognized that like, I just didn't have and I'm sure like my codependency had something to do with it as well, but I couldn't differentiate recognizing that someone was attractive and actually being attracted to them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So because I had that experience and I'd opened up to a couple of people about it like early on, because I mean, back then is, you know, you could lose friends if you were gay.
Yeah.
So in the back of my head, like anytime that, not necessarily that Kevin was being bigoted, but like bigot adjacent stuff would happen, I just was always like, I don't think so. I'm not into that. But so like when I say, that I recognize that experience, it's because I literally had that experience.
For sure.
So I know how that feels. I've also been called a fig. Not in the way that they used to do it. Like I genuinely had, so like I have these experiences because I was like going through that like, I don't know what I am thing. And so I have a soft spot for the LGBTQ community because it's like what I went through is minuscule in comparison to what people who that's their truth actually went through. And it's scary. In our town, in this community that we thought we had, the more we grew up, the more we realized like, oh, you actually are just like the clique shit that we were trying to get away from, which sucks.
Yep.
So please, without me projecting, continue.
I mean, I was in a long-term relationship with a man in high school. And
who is now Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yes. I would have loved to date him. Are you kidding? No, he was the start of my bassist obsession.
That is hilarious.
My sad boy bassist toxicity.
I mean, they had such long arms.
They did. And I use boy as in like BOI, gender neutral. You can be a toxic sad boy.
Oh yeah.
And be not male.
It's funny that there's a clothing company that caters to that whole thing. But yeah, continue.
Yes. So we broke up actually a couple of weeks before I started college. And I had known at this time when I was 18 that I was attracted to women.
Had you had any experiences? Okay.
Nope. But I was like, I mean, what do you do in college? You drink and you bang around and you figure yourself out.
You make it sound like you're like going through a cave, like, I don't know where the fuck I am.
That was what I was expecting. But then, 2 months in, I meet Ben, who I went on to date for 9 years.
Holy shit.
And I was not expecting to meet somebody and be in a serious relationship. That was not my plan. I dated Steve for 2.5 years in high school. And when we're talking high school relationships, it's a long time.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very long time.
Yeah. If you go over 6 months, people are like, they're getting married for sure.
Yes. So I was like, okay, I've done this long-term relationship thing. I'm just gonna be single and have fun and do whatever. And then I met Ben and I was like, actually, I just want to be with him. And so we dated for a really long time. And then it just like, it really got to me where I was like, I had this kind of like internalized biphobia of like, well, you can't call yourself a bisexual if you've never been with a woman. How do you even know that you are? Now looking back, I'm just like, that was dumb. Because it doesn't matter who you've been with. It matters your attraction. I've always been bisexual. I've always been attracted to women, whether or not I've consciously known that. But I had it in my head that like, it was driving me crazy. Like, I need to know what it's like to be with a woman. And I also need to like speak openly about being attracted to women. So I finally like got up the nerve. At this point, I was like, well, Ben and I are going to be together forever. So I need to like just come clean and tell him that there's this thing that has been bugging me for the past 7 years. And
holy shit, 7 years?
Yeah, we were together for 7 years before I came out to him.
Okay, I'm always curious about this because for guys, they look at a certain type of pornography.
Yep.
Like, were you looking at porn at all?
I was not.
And so it's such a fascinating like difference. Like guys, they're in the closet, even though, or they're in denial, even though they look at this stuff and that's what gets them off.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I don't think I've ever heard. I'm sure that it happens for sure, but as of right now, I've not heard a single female be like, "Yeah, I was looking at lesbian porn the whole time."
Yeah, my views on porn have changed a lot. I work with youth who are experiencing homelessness, and a lot of them are sexually exploited and trafficked. So I've never been to a strip club. I'm afraid I'll go there and I'll see one of my clients.
Wow.
And so I didn't do anything related to any type of sex, porn, dancing, stripping. Like, that was not my scene. Things have changed. I still haven't been to a strip club. I won't go to one in Minnesota.
Well, it's fascinating, like, because you're absolutely right. Like, the porn industry was such a terrifying place filled with so many horrible people. So it's weird to try to adjust to seeing like now there's a healthy part of it.
Yeah.
Where like they care about each other and they like protect each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's so weird to think about because like it was so classically terrifying. There's so many instances of trauma, and the majority of the people that went into it experienced trauma. And they just didn't know how to cope with it. And so they just were like, well, this is my life now.
For sure. And like, since then, you know, I've become friends with people who are sex workers and things like that. So my
perspective.
Thank you. That's the word I'm looking for. Has changed. But at the time, like, yeah. I wasn't even watching girl on girl porn to know that I was attracted to women.
But then you watch Transformers.
No, then I watched the L Word. But yeah, so, you know, I kind of dropped this bomb on my longtime partner, and this is nothing against him. It's something that most men would have the same response of cool. So threesome?
Yep.
Very stereotypical response. And in my mind, I was like, if that's what it takes for me to be able to be with a girl, sure. Oh man, that sucks. Yeah. But that's actually not the way that it happened.
Okay.
So we decided, okay, we're gonna try this open relationship thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we were trying to, I don't know if you are familiar with the term unicorn hunter.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, so I've never admitted this, but like you and I have spoken about this.
Mm-hmm.
Where there was a point in my relationship where that the concept was an option.
Mm-hmm.
And I was super conflicted because I can't help what I'm attracted to. And obviously that's something that for whatever reason in my mind is like, that would be dope. But at the same time, the concept of exoticizing somebody and like that it's like a market.
Yeah, for sure.
You go and look for, like, it just fucked me up for a little bit.
Yeah, and I don't feel like if you haven't been a part of that world that you would know that it's like such a common thing. Like male-female couples looking for a female to join them. Like that's half of Tinder. Like,
oh my God.
Bisexual Tinder is wild, let me tell you. But we both got separate Tinder accounts and we were both looking for somebody that would be interested in both of us, and it was like I would start talking to a girl and she's not interested in men, or Ben would start talking to a girl and she's not interested in women. And so it was leading us nowhere. And so Ben was pretty much just like, okay, this isn't working. I still want to be supportive of you. So let's just do our own thing. And so then, without meaning to, I met the person who would then go on to be my girlfriend. And it was supposed to be only physical. I did not know how difficult it could be to separate sex from emotion.
Oh my God.
Because I've never done that. Up until this point, it was me and my high school boyfriend and me and Ben. That's it.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I'm curious too, like, that's got to be scary.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, super scary.
So, I mean, like, leaning on this individual to, like, help you figure this shit out, I mean, it makes sense that there would be a bond there, because this is, like, an insanely fragile thing that it took 7 years to, like, try to come to grips with. So, I mean, did it feel like, because I'm sure now you've seen like, you know, group therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, did it feel kind of like that, where you're like asking questions and?
Yeah. And, you know, it was such a bizarre dynamic, because Ben didn't mind us having sex at all. But then I would be like, hey, I'm gonna go over to V's house and we're gonna watch the new episode of The Walking Dead. And he's like, you guys are friends now? You guys are like hanging out? You guys are not just boning? Like, and then there was the start of an emotional relationship that started to form.
So he became Ross.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We Rossed him.
Bitch, you just got Rossed.
I love that, actually.
But I mean, it's so weird, because it's just like your first relationship all over again.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, how long were you guys together?
Almost 2 years.
So the heartache of, because like starting a new relationship, there's fragility to it. But when you're an adult and you have the concept of what like a forever relationship looks like, you're starting damn near a new life over with this person. And I'm thinking of like how my codependent brain works and how I would handle that. Like, I would put so much stake in this relationship.
Yeah.
That like the idea of it ending would destroy me.
Yeah. And, you know, if I'm just being totally honest, like mine and hers relationship overlapped with mine and Ben's relationship, you know, like that wasn't the way that any of us had intended on it happening, but it did. And we just became so close so quickly. And yeah, it was my first non-male relationship. And we're still friends. We still talk.
And I mean, I would assume there's like trauma bonding. There's all kinds of.
Well, and you know, with Ben, a lot of shit happened to the both of us over 9 years.
Oh, sure.
You know, like he was there for me when my grandpa died. He saw me through grad school and dealt with sleep-deprived cranky Steph, you know? So definitely there are things that kept us together longer than we should have been.
Mm.
Because it's like you're looking back at all the good times, but the times currently are not good.
And it's so hard to like give yourself the grace to walk away from something when you feel like you owe them because they were there for stuff.
For sure.
Like it's such a mind fuck to like, immediately the second that you feel that like, do I really want to be in this relationship? And then your mind does they were here for this. They did this for you. They did that for you. Like,
yep.
It's like you're in debt to them.
Yeah.
Anybody who feels that, just end it right there. You don't owe anybody anything.
Totally normal.
Yeah.
Totally normal.
But I mean, so with her, things ended amicably.
Yeah. It was mutual.
Okay.
We both mutually decided to end it. And then it didn't fully end, and then that was like extra confusing. There's so many more things that go into the stress of a queer relationship than I knew.
Mm.
Shout out to all of the queers out there who are in like 10, 20-year relationships because my God, like my hat is off to you. There's so many other stressors that you have to deal with that you don't have to deal with in seemingly male-female relationships.
Yeah. Well, for starters, people see you and a male holding hands. No one even notices.
Right. No big deal.
Somebody sees you and your girlfriend holding hands, even if they're not judging, people just look at you.
Mm-hmm. I mean, not with V, but with this other girl that I dated. Like, we were walking down the street and holding hands, and we had somebody in Minneapolis, like yell some shit out the window to us. And, like, we weren't doing anything. We were just walking to go get some food, and it's like, you really can't quantify all of those things and the stress that puts on a relationship. Like, I don't know if I want to hold your hand when I walk down the street. Like, I wouldn't do that shit here. No.
Oh my God, no.
No.
Well, it's so weird. Like, there's like a civil war going on in Becca right now.
Yes.
So having my son in this school is stressful because we recognized how disgusting it was for a while. And then there was this turning point where things got better. The education system got better. We had teachers that were caring more. And then fucking Trump got elected and all of these fuckers got brave and decided to be pieces of shit.
Yeah.
And then that encouraged the students to do the same. Mm-hmm. And so you have this divide of kids accepting non-binary, trans, queer, all of these things, but just 6 inches away, you have somebody who thinks you're going to hell and build that wall and all this bullshit. And they have big trucks and flags and it's so abrasive. I saw the queer and trans kids trying to mimic that. I forget what day it was for. But they tried to put flags up on their cars and they're driving cars. So it was really tough. And like, they're trying to close doors and it's this struggle. And I was watching it like, God, it's such a good analogy for what's actually fucking happening.
Yeah.
Like they're trying to be proud. They're trying to do these things, but it's so overshadowed by the other shit.
Mm-hmm.
So like Landon has pansexual friends. Landon has trans friends. And they're out and open but you can still see a lot of pain.
Yeah.
So it's like, God, it's getting better, but at the same time, we had this 4-year period where people got bolstered, and so they have to struggle again.
Yeah, yeah. And this is actually going to forever make me laugh that my little brother came out before I did. Like, he is 14 years younger than me and came out before I did. Like,
it's weird, right?
It gives, and I work with youth. It gives me a lot of faith and joy to see kids like just being who they are.
Did you know anyone that was out when you were in school?
Yes. People who are younger than me, though.
Mm-hmm.
So my brothers, my brother Ty, not my little brother, his ex-partner, used to identify as lesbian, Chandra, and she was 2 years younger than me. She had only dated women until she dated Ty.
So just the one?
No. I mean, now she, I assume, identifies as either bi or
Oh, no,
pan.
no, sorry. When you were in school, I'm saying.
Oh, no, there was a group of lesbians that all dated each other.
It's probably the same. Like, was that Jazz, Amanda, and...
No, so, and you may know Mick, who is a trans man, but was identifying as a lesbian at the time.
Okay.
Mick Nowak, Michaela at the time.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Was in that group with Chandra and a couple of other people.
Got it. Okay. But yeah, like so it was rare, but then they stuck together. That's so funny because it's the same thing that the people that I knew.
Yes.
Like, and God, were they just, everybody assumed that they were insanely promiscuous.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it sucked because they couldn't just be gay. They had to admit to some aspect of being straight. Like, I remember Jazz saying, like, she's not into dudes, but if there ever was a case, like, I would be the only dude. And I was like, that's not really a strong case because I'm pretty feminine, so makes sense. But like, she shouldn't have had to have done that.
Right.
And I saw that so many times, like, where if somebody was questioning their sexuality, it had to be they either had to do it for somebody else if they were exploring, right? So, like, the girl that I was dating would make out with other girls when I was there.
Yeah.
And shit like that would happen all the time. So, like, you couldn't just be you.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now these kids, they're just straight up being themselves, which is fucking great.
I know. I love it.
So I'm curious, like, I don't know how many gay friends you had or LGBTQ friends you had when you came out, but and I only learned about this within like the last, I don't know, like 6 months, but how there's like old guard gays who, if you were bi, they were like, no, you're just gay. And sometimes you do this other thing. Like, did you experience shit like that?
I mean, I have definitely spoken a lot about how the queer community can be just as hurtful to bisexual and transgender people as the straight community can, because everything's all fine and dandy when I'm dating a girl. But then when I want to bring my boyfriend around, it's like, well, what's a straight cis dude doing around here? And maybe there's some of that like, that's just me being paranoid. But I've gone to Pride with men and I've gone to Pride with women, and it feels different.
Yeah, because in the one sense, you brought a spectator. In the other sense, you're a part of the community.
Mm-hmm.
So like you're viewed either as a tour guide or as someone who should be celebrating and this and that. I don't really know much about that experience. I know so much about people who are like hard one way or the other, but I don't really know that much about the bi experience in that sense.
Yeah. You know, and there are also folks who identify as transgender, who are with a different sex. So it could look from the outside, oh, that's a male-female straight couple.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you don't know. And me and my partner, male-female couple, you could look at us and say, that's a straight couple. No. So you don't ever really know the dynamics of somebody's relationship, and your relationship is not your orientation.
Right. Well, I mean, our producer for Dude Absolutely is trans. And I remember when she told us that she was gay, it wasn't like a lot of confusion for her. It felt like there was just one last class that she needed to take or something. It was very basic.
Did she come out as trans before she came out as gay?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So, because truly she's asexual.
Okay.
Like really, she just wants to have strong friendships. And so this other thing was so minor. She's like, obviously, she's like, yeah, like big fan of boobs. And
who isn't?
So, but I mean, obviously her real struggle is maybe that's what it was that the trans thing was so intense. Being gay is like, yeah, that's easy.
That's really interesting because so my brother is transgender and he realized that he was pansexual before he realized that he wasn't a girl. And when we've talked about it, you know, and again, I don't want to speak for anybody. That's his story. But like, he was like, yeah, I realize my attraction towards people more than I recognize like myself.
I feel like that has to do with the like body dysmorphia. I feel like is so under like investigated. Like it's people hear it and they always associate it with overweight. Oh, you hate being overweight, body dysmorphia. But body dysmorphia is this really intense thing of like, you look in the mirror and you don't know who that person is. What you know is the thing that you walk around with. And so when you have to look at that other thing, it's like, Jesus Christ, this fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Like body dysmorphia is such a, man, it's a terrifying concept to me because I hope that my kids never have to fucking go through that.
Yeah.
Because, God. So, and the statistics right now are escaping me beyond the trans community, but the suicide rates are so high. When you were going through, because I mean, are you diagnosed depression or anything along those lines?
I have anxiety.
Okay. Did you notice like a ramp up in anxiety attacks when you were like in that 7-year span of like, I think there's this thing.
I mean, yes and no, because there was a lot of other shit that was happening at the same time. And B, I was actually diagnosed with anxiety pretty late. I mean, it's very, very surprising to me that nobody was like, look at your anxious ass, you know? Like, the way that I was diagnosed with anxiety is actually very backwards.
Oh.
My anxiety got so bad that I developed a tic, which was throat clearing. Like, this.
Dude. Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
And I felt like I couldn't breathe.
Okay.
And I cleared my throat all the time, like several times a minute.
Holy shit.
And everyone would always ask me if I was sick. And I was like, I feel fine. And so I went to the doctor and
Were you smoking at the time?
No.
Okay.
Nope. This was when I was 23.
Okay.
And I went to the doctor and they were like, oh, you have acid reflux. And so I took all these acid reflux medications, and then I came back and I was like, it's not going away. And then they were like, it's this, it's that. And so for like a good year, I tried all of these different types of medication for my nose and my throat. And then I finally got sent to like a ear, nose, and throat doctor, and they did the whole thing where they put like a microscope like up your nose and it comes out your mouth, and
oh fuck.
It was terrible. And then the doctor was like, yeah, there's nothing physically wrong with you. And I was like, why do I feel like I can't breathe? And he was like, yeah, you probably have generalized anxiety disorder, and I'm going to write you a script for Xanax. And
is that how you started your rap career?
Yes. And I was just like, this fucking guy, like, he doesn't know about mental health. He's a fucking ear doctor. Like, get out of here, you know? And I actually like called my sister and I was like, can you believe this? This guy has the audacity, you know? And then she was just like, maybe he's onto something. And then like a couple of days later, I was like, you know what? Don't necessarily believe that I have anxiety, but if this is what it takes to get this thing to go away, I will. And so I started taking Xanax every day, and lo and behold, tick is gone. And then I was on that for 2-3 years, and then they were like, hey, you shouldn't be on this stuff for long term. And I'm like, why'd you give it to me then? You know, like, why did you start me out with, like, the hardest core shit?
I forget. Is that a benzodiazepine?
Yes.
Okay. So,
and
highly addictive. Thanks.
It is. Like, don't get me wrong, but, like, shit, why was that? Like, oh, yeah, because it was given to me by a non-mental health professional. Like, he did, like, the one anti-anxiety med that he knew of.
That'd be funny if he was, because he's an ear, nose, and throat doctor, he's like, you're snorting it, right? That's my specialty is.
So then I like had to have that like completely leave my system for the doctors to be able to prescribe me a new medication. And that was the worst feeling of my entire life.
This is a new game. Everybody who has been on the show has said the medication that they're on. So what's that medication?
Effexor.
Effexor. Oh.
Yeah. So I'm on the non-fancy one. So it's
generic version.
Yeah, it's venlafaxine, but the actual version is Effexor. But yeah,
I'm on Lexapro and Wellbutrin.
Is that for sleep? The Wellbutrin?
No. It does tend to make me sleepy, but they had me on mirtazapine, which was, you know, for sleep, but it also had some serotonin shit. So when I came off of it, my body was like, hey, this fucking sucks.
Yes. Let's
give you diarrhea for like 3 days. I was like, God damn it.
It's the worst. It is the worst. If my experience of coming off of Xanax, if that is a drop, I mean, I know that it's a drop in the bucket of trying to come off of hardcore drugs, like meth and heroin. And it makes me extremely empathetic to all of the people who are detoxing like that because it hurts.
It's interesting to think of like a lot of people have been through withdrawals and have no idea that that's what it is.
Mm.
Like they'll give it other names like brain zaps and, you know, like just, what's the other one? Like transition sickness, like because we have to get you off this med before we can start the new med.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure it's out of your system. So there's going to be X amount of days where you feel like shit. Like your body is going through withdrawals because they're going, wait, where's the good shit? We need the survival juice.
For sure. For sure. And, you know, to change topics kind of dramatically, when my brother was detoxing off of heroin and fentanyl, he would take a little bit to stave off the bad feelings. And then that little bit turned into a little bit more before he was back in it, you know?
So, I mean, we've talked a lot about, and this is why I wanted to have you on, because you're very open, and like, I'm glad you said empathetic to that other plight, because you do have such a good way of being empathetic to things. Like you can be a strong, independent woman who don't need no man when you want to.
Yep.
But that's so funny. I was just about to ask if I could wear it.
Oh, nope. Nope. This is my aggressively gay cardigan.
I love it so much.
So warm and fuzzy.
I almost bought a shirt in Florida that says, "I'm not gay, I'm super gay." And the super gay was like had sparkles and glitter and shit. It was fucking hilarious.
Awesome.
What the fuck was I saying? I got wrapped up in Joseph's Technicolor fucking dream coat. But the empathy and stuff, like, so when you told Bitsy and Linda, was their reaction like, cool? Or,
I mean, yeah, most people were just like, it's about damn time.
Oh,
like,
that's hilarious.
Oh my God. Like there are so many of my friends. I've always been involved in queer politics. And so they're just like, oh, like, I mean, my friends, Danny and Carissa in college, we sat in the corner and they called it the queer corner. And
did they spell corner with a Q too?
I hope so. But so there was just this joke that I was an honorary queer because I would show up to the protests. I would do the research and learn and talk, and it was no surprise to especially my friends within the queer community when I did come out.
Well, first of all, my paranoia and OCD. Do you see a little red dot in that screen over there?
No.
Oh, there it is. Okay. It's tucked away in the corner.
Okay.
Phew. I always get paranoid. I'm like, we've had such a great discussion.
What does that mean?
Nothing's recording.
Oh, okay.
I was scared for it. That's why I keep looking at the board. I'm like, okay, everything's still going. How much do you know about addiction in the LGBTQ community?
I mean,
and actually, because I'm old, is the proper vernacular LGBTQ plus?
That's how I always type it out.
Okay.
But you know, it is kind of alphabet soup when you spell it all out, and obviously it is important to be inclusive, but it's also important to be a community. So, yeah, I normally just say LGBTQ plus.
I feel like they should just say like because so there's sex applied to gender, and then there's sexual preference, and then I'm trying to think of the correct term, because it's more of a spectrum now.
Yeah, for sure.
So I feel like it would be easier if we just figured out one word and then said spectrum.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
then you let them explain.
I mean, maybe just like the sexuality spectrum.
Yes. Which sounds fucking fun.
Yeah, it sounds fancy.
I'm on the sexual spectrum.
It sounds fancy. But
Oh yeah, sorry. So addiction within the
yeah, it's depressing. The numbers are depressing. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I mean, obviously, being a person who identifies as LGBTQ plus, we have struggles that cis hetero people don't, and so turning to drugs and alcohol is a pretty normal thing. And also, there's not a lot of sober events for the community. The whole thing is you go to the bar. And that's where all of the other gay people are, at the bar.
Well, even there's that drag brunch where it's all mimosas.
Oh yeah.
Like,
I've been there. It's wonderful. And I mean, even they do have like a kid friendly one that they do once a month, which is really cool. Me and my ex have done that with her kid.
What?
Yeah.
What is this?
Yeah. It's like not sexualized. You know, it's like a toned down.
Because the Pride Parade, I've wanted to take the kids, but the assless chaps and
that's real.
all that shit. I'm like, God, I hate the Pride Parade the same way that I hate like spring breakers in Florida. Like, we get it. You're all hot. It's fucking good for you. I just want to take my kids to the beach. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, there is, and I mean, I shouldn't say that this is still a thing that's going on because COVID and,
sure.
and everything. But, like, I know we did like a Disney themed one that we went to with her kid. They'll do like a.
But where is this and what is it called?
So it was at Lush.
Oh.
In Minneapolis.
Okay.
Lush is closed right now. I don't know if they are reopening.
I see.
But a lot of those performers have went to the Union, the restaurant downtown, and will do kid-friendly versions of a show. So like a toned down like Halloween, but it's not like super sexy. It's like Hocus Pocus, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, fuck, that's good to know because like really it sucks that like every event or gathering is either this like, not that the whole thing is hypersexualized, but there's an aspect, and I get it because you want to feel free, and when you have a massive audience that supports it, of course you're gonna embrace that and do that stuff. Totally fine. But it's there's either some aspect of that or it's like a civil rights thing, which sucks. And I don't want my kids to like feel like it's a sad thing. Like they have to be fighting constantly for this thing. Like I love the thing that like Landon's going through right now. Like he just has friends that identify this way and no one gives a fuck.
Yeah.
Like I want that world to keep happening.
Oh yeah.
And I guess it's kind of me like I like being in denial on certain things. And I want to shelter my kids from that shit.
For sure. And I think maybe another reason why like drugs and alcohol are so common in the community is like what you were kind of just saying about like, hey, we're fun, we party, you know? And
you like, have hundreds of people who want you like the peer pressure is intense because you're getting applauded to keep doing the thing.
Right.
Whether it's fellow LGBTQ or cis people too. Like we're all like, yeah, fucking do your thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, you know, there's also a lot of mental health struggles within the community. And obviously addiction goes along with that. But there's this covering up of, like, you know, I know a lot of, I mean, especially gay men who are the life of the party. But then
does it seem to be more gay white men
that I know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I should say that, you know, even though I do live in the cities and everything, my friend group is still predominantly white. But there's a lot of covering up of the struggle with drugs and alcohol.
The reason I pointed out the white thing is because like over the last 400 or 500 years, almost every problem can be traced back to the cis white male.
Yeah.
Which people hate hearing, but it's like, objectively, do the history work and you tell me where the problem is. And it always comes back to us. And like, and that's another reason why, like, I want people to learn how to be okay with being wrong so that, because then you can move forward.
Right.
Like if I'm wrong about shit, tell me, and then you can change your stance.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think Bill Nye was on the fence about global warming, and then new facts were introduced and he was like, oh, there's truth here, so I'm going to go this way now. That's how it should work.
Who knew that Bill Nye was going to be just like our social justice advocate? Like I didn't know that when I was watching him with his little science beakers and shit. When I was in second grade. Oh, so good. He actually does a whole bunch of stuff about gender and sexuality too.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. And just like looking at other like animal species, like this is a normal thing.
Oh,
like
yeah.
it comes across in every single species. So don't act like humans are the weird ones.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. God.
He's just so good.
He is. He's the best. That long neck of his.
He does have a really long neck.
He's like the perfect cartoon character come to life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But on a more serious note with the addiction stuff, like, and the whole, like, so people have an issue with Chappelle because of the stuff that he has said. However, the thing that he's really pointing out which is crazy how smart he was, because it was a 5-year project of saying all these things and all of the problems that people have with what he said, but it all comes back to race relations. Mm. Like truly the reason why he has issues with XYZ, because he is uneducated in a lot of shit. Mm-hmm. Like that is clear. But the reason why he like has these issues is because it's still tied to the white man, the cis white man, like implementing like the trans community making leaps and bounds because a famous white male transitioned and everyone was like forced to accept it, right? Mm-hmm. So like it sucks that because the black trans community, the suicide rates were
horrendous,
horrifying. So not only were they worrying about being killed, they're mentally struggling with not fucking killing themselves. But then, yeah, white guy comes along and is like, hey, it's okay. And now so I'm not saying like I support the shit that Chappelle says, but I don't know the black struggle.
For sure.
And I definitely see what he's saying with like, how am I supposed to be okay with all of this shit when it's still tied to a white guy giving the thumbs up or the thumbs down as to what's okay now?
Yeah, I mean, that is a really good point. And also, it's still a huge deal that Elliot Page was able to transition, and lucky me being bisexual, he's still ridiculously fine.
Isn't that funny? I saw a picture of him after Juno in boys' underwear, and I was like, oh my God. I still want to fuck this person.
Yeah,
like,
right?
What is going on?
Yeah. And I'm a big Umbrella Academy fan. And so I'm super interested to see what they're going to do with his character. And I kind of want, like, it is a big deal, but also I want it to be normalized. So I really just hope that, like, he shows up and just, like, nobody says anything. Like,
well, it sounds like nobody gave a fuck immediately.
Well, yeah.
Like, in the people that he was working with were just like, dope.
Yeah.
And I know Gerard Way.
Dude, Gerard Way is not going to be a homophobe, a transphobe, and be like, no, you're going to remain your female character. Like, of course they're going to adapt, but I'm interested in how they do that.
Yeah. So that's what I'm curious about, is he has the option. So I'm curious if he is going to go, because there's androgynous characters that have acted on either side of the aisle. So will he take it as a challenge to say, I know how to act like a girl. I know how to do this. So I'm going to portray a girl in that acting sense.
Well, I mean, because he's been playing a girl his entire life.
Yes,
So.
Exactly. So, like, does he do that? Or, because it seems like the writers want it to happen too. Like, they want it to go this, everything seems to want to go that way. So 99% chance that it's going to be an easy thing for them to be like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
We already had you as a queer character.
Mm-hmm.
Just who fucking cares? But, okay, sorry. So that's what we're trying to say, people, is that white people are the root of all problems.
Yeah, we kind of suck.
And especially, I want to cut this part out. Okay, and we're back. So, yeah. So anyways, that guy sucks. We're moving on. Back to the addiction stuff, because I do want to talk about that.
Okay.
I might release this in a 2-parter because I really want to dive deep with you.
Okay.
So prepare for part 2, ladies and gentlemen.